people just kind of give him a hard time and they rag on him despite the fact that he has great intentions. I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate. And it's something which I have obviously had to come to terms with over the years. And for me, with the comparison is not like that with Geralt walking into a bar. The comparison is more meta. It's more to do with xenophobia and sexism and colonialism and all those effects that has on people, and then who they divert their fear and energy towards, and that tends to be Geralt, because he's a guy who exists outside of society. He's not part of a group when he walks into town, and he looks so different from everyone else, and no one can control him. He is faster, stronger, better at swords, and apparently can do magic as well. So the last thing you want to do is, you can't control him, and you fear him, and therefore all of your energy, especially in a crowd of people, will be diverted at him because of everything that's happening above you in the world.
Fair enough. Really quick.
If that's not a mic drop moment, I don't know what is. Hello everyone, it's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and today we are going to be talking about that beautiful little speech that Henry Cavill just gave. Now, I agree with him wholeheartedly on his sentiments. Now, as far as the whole narrative that's been trying to be played, because obviously the interviewer had a list of questions that they had to ask him, and that obviously was on there as one of the questions that they insisted on bringing up to him, and including the words toxic fandom, because that is something that the mainstream media likes to throw around so loosely now. That fans, we're not fans, it's just toxic fandom. Anyone that has any type of criticism whatsoever gets grouped in that. Oh, you don't like this, you don't immediately agree with everything that we're, putting in front of you, you are a toxic fan. And it is such a breath of fresh air to get a response like this from an A-list actor like Henry Cavill. To him, say no, going against the grain. I have not seen another actor or, producer or writer or director come out and say like this. No, it's not toxicity, it's just passion. It's people truly caring about something. And then I included a longer little bit from the interview because I think everything else that he said has to do with it as well. Look at the way that he's talking about this character. He obviously understands this character and he's done his research on this character. I know for a fact Henry Cavill has read the books because he has talked about it in previous interviews. He has talked about how he religiously played the video game and that, he's a really big fan of, The Witcher video games, the whole franchise of it, the video games, the books, and he was excited to play this character, and he understands it to, a whole nother level than somebody that, is just walking in, oh, it's The Witcher, let me go, take a little quick Google search, do my research on it. It's a very different thing, being a fan of something for years, playing something for years, spending time and, months, if not years, reading books and, learning about this, incorporating that into your life. And the way that he describes this character Geralt and how the society is against him, society fears him because they can't control him. Like he said, there's sexism, there's colonialism, there's xenophobia. And the way that he described this character and the way society is against him, I think that coincides perfectly with this interviewer and the Access Media trying to bring in toxic fandom and the toxicity surrounding fandom. And the way Henry Cavill put it was so eloquent. They fear him, they can't control him. He's outside of society, he's not inside this group. I feel like that coincides perfectly with fans. Fans, nerds, nerdom, fandom, geekdom, whatever you want to call it. I feel like until recently, it wasn't mainstream. You know, we were our own kind of little thing. It didn't exist before where everyone had access like this, and then now all of a sudden everyone is an expert on everything because we have this thing called Google, and anyone can go on Google and you can spend an hour and you can know everything about a Marvel character, about a DC character, about a video game character, a book character. And one of the things that I think people in the access media, people in Hollywood are so threatened by fans is because we've done this for years. We know this. These characters, these things we care about, whether it be Doctor Who, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be Lord of the Rings, whether it be Witcher, whether it be superheroes. We are so passionate about it. We will defend it. We will sit there and watch every scrap of content on it because we love it, because we can't get enough of it. It is in our blood. For me, something like Star Wars has been with me since I was a very, very young child. It is a part of who I am. And when I saw something like The Last Jedi, when I, opened my eyes and saw everything that was happening with Star Wars, with the people that were running it, with them seeing valid criticisms and saying, no, that's not a valid criticism. You're a toxic incel man baby. You are, you're not contributing anything. None of your criticisms are valid. And it's like, no. I'm trying to explain to you that what you're doing is actually wrong. You don't understand the way hyperspace travel works. You don't understand how the Force works. How do you not understand how training works in the Force? That Luke Skywalker, just go look at the previous source material that you purchased. Go look at how when Luke Skywalker was training in the Force with he wasn't even a Jedi, a fully trained Jedi yet, and he could sense that that Leia was in danger. Luke could sense that. He could sense that Han was in danger, and you're telling me that he couldn't sense that Han Solo died? He couldn't feel that? You're telling me this guy that had such faith, that was such an optimistic character, that had someone like Darth Vader, his father, a guy that was so far down the path of the dark side that nobody else believed he could come back, but Luke Skywalker believed in him. You're telling me that guy was the guy that was going to kill his nephew for having a bad dream? That's not Luke Skywalker. That's not who he is. That doesn't make sense. You're telling me, telling you that is not a valid criticism. That's me being toxic. It doesn't make sense. And the way that Henry Cavill describes this fear that people have for this character, I think it coincides beautifully with the way that Hollywood and the access media have fear of the fandom because they can't control us. We in America, we have this thing called freedom of speech. We have the internet. Yes, the internet allows you to go Google and, become an expert on something in, a matter of hours. You can go Google anything and you can learn about it. You can learn anything on the internet nowadays. But the thing that the internet, doesn't really give you is just because you go read something doesn't give you the passion. It doesn't give you, the years worth of experience on something. And people like me, other people on YouTube that have been speaking out, for the past 2 years, it seems, if not longer, about what's going on, about how these things that we love are getting destroyed. And we're speaking out on that, and they can't stand it. They're afraid of us. They're labeling us toxic fans. And to hear someone like Henry Cavill defend it, say, no, it's not toxicity. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone loves this. And, we're not going to please everyone. But you have to understand that people are only speaking out about it. People are, they feel this way. They feel so passionately about it because they care. It's so refreshing to hear someone in this circle say that. I haven't seen anyone else speak out about it, but everyone else just seems to say, get on the whole boat of, you're toxic. But I've been a big fan of Henry Cavill for a really long time. He's in one of my favorite movies. It was back when he was really young, before, he was an A-list celebrity. It was the movie The Count of Monte Cristo. I loved that movie because I'm a really big fan of the book, and he plays Edmond Dantes' son in that movie. And that was before Man of Steel. That was before he was Superman. And I've seen lots of interviews that he's done, and Henry Cavill actually is a nerd. He's a hardcore nerd. He loves this kind of stuff. And I think that's why he gets it. He understands fandom because he's one of us. When you compare him to someone like Brie Larson or someone like Daisy Ridley, those are women that, Brie Larson, I don't think she'd ever read it. I think she said it in interviews. She found out she was going to get the part, then she was starting to read the comics, then she was starting to learn about the character. This wasn't a character that she grew up loving, that she grew up knowing. This wasn't something that was in her for a long time, that she was a fan of this character. No, it was something she got a job, and then she started learning about the character. Daisy Ridley admitted in the interview that she did with British GQ that she wasn't a big Star Wars fan, that, she'd seen it, but, it wasn't her thing. And of course, she didn't know who the character Rey was because the character didn't exist, before they did the scripts, and she didn't know going into it what her character was going to be like. These girls didn't grow up with it, and we can get into different actors and actresses too on that, but those are some of the main ones that have been causing problems now. Brie Larson is a big one, Daisy Ridley more. We're learning more as more information comes out, but you can just see the difference in somebody like Henry Cavill that has been a fan all of his life, since he was a young child and his father was reading him books. He has lived and breathed this stuff, and he understands. These people that are speaking out, calling this toxic, they haven't lived and breathed this stuff. They don't have those years of passion, of experience, these kind of things. So when they see people, giving them criticisms, and they want to say it's a minority. No, it's a vast majority, because it is everyone that has been diehard fans for years, if not, decades upon decades. And, yes, it can be overwhelming at times, but just to immediately label it toxic just because you don't want to hear criticism on something, people pointing out valid criticisms, you want to, like he said, it's a xenophobia. It's a sexist. There is sexism involved. And it's so nice to hear him, use that comparison and explain it so eloquently. I'm very happy that this exists. I'm very happy that somebody actually gets it. And it's a breath of fresh air. I wished more people were like this. And, before hearing this, I had a lot of respect for Henry Cavill, because I remember back when Batman and Superman came out and all the backlash behind that. I'm a huge DC fan. That being said, I'm not a Zack Snyder fan in the slightest. I don't like the way that he handled the DC, EU. I loved Henry Cavill being cast as Superman. I thought he was spot on for the role. I never blamed Henry Cavill for the mistakes that I feel that they were a lot of huge mistakes in Man of Steel, in the way that they handled the Superman as a character. I don't blame Henry Cavill for that. But the way that I watched when he responded to the backlash of Batman and Superman, and him and Ben Affleck were there in that interview, and he's talking to the interviewer about it, and he's not being nasty. He's not saying, oh, well, the fans, they just, they're being toxic. No, he just is explaining, okay, well, basically the same way he just did in this interview. And I remember that interview went viral because Ben Affleck was the exact opposite of Henry Cavill. He was just sitting there looking like, his soul had left his body. He was completely dead inside. And somebody did a video of it zooming in, playing Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. And I just remember thinking, wow, look at the difference between the way Henry Cavill is handling the situation compared to Ben Affleck. There's a level of understanding and a level of class in it. Whereas one person went in thinking, hey, I'm going to be the new Batman, and I'm going to be the superhero. Everyone's going to like it. It's going to be this epic, superhero mesh-up movie. And another person that went in going, I'm a fan. I'm going to do the best job that I can. I'm going to try to embody this character to, the absolute fullest and stay as true to the character as, I feel is possible. And I'm going to stand behind my work, and I'm going to be proud of it, because I know at the end of the day, I did the best job I could have possibly done. And you can see that, the difference between Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill. He earned my respect that day with that interview, the way that he handled the backlash for not Man of Steel, that too, but for Batman versus Superman. And then this, it says a lot about the person, the way that they handle themselves and the way that they, present themselves in interviews, the way that they, handle themselves and answer questions like this. Whereas, some people will just say, they'll make up an excuse and say, oh, well, if you don't like diversity, then fuck them. When, that wasn't even the issue. When, somebody's being criticized for, oh, well, you're franchise isn't as successful as, this other franchise, and, making up the excuse and blatant lie of, oh, well, we didn't have source material like that other franchise had. And, Henry Cavill is just saying, no, it's not toxic fandom. People are allowed to disagree with things, because guess what? At the end of the day, they are only disagreeing, and they're only expressing that because they care, because they have that love and that passion for it. So thank you so much, Henry Cavill, for, saying that. I hope that, more people in Hollywood understand that. I hope more people in the access media hear this guy out and, actually listen and don't just write this off. I hope that they listen and that they understand, because he's speaking the truth. We're not toxic. We just are passionate about the things that we love. And like I've said many, many times on my channel, we will defend it because we love it. And that's why I'm here. That's why I have this channel, is because I can't stand seeing the things that I love destroyed. And I'm going to defend it. Until I die. I will continue defending Star Wars. I will continue defending the things I love until I die. Because it's a part of who I am. It's in my blood. It's in my heart and soul. And I love it. I love it. And I'll never stop defending the things I love. And I'll never stop standing up for the things that I believe in. So I'm so grateful for Henry Cavill. I have included clips that I've, got just showing more genuine little snippets of interviews that Henry Cavill did, just kind of highlighting what a nerd he is, and why he gets it, why he gets fandoms, because he actually is one of us. I'm gonna play those right now. So just before that, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and kind of hearing me out on this, because people say, oh, why do you do so many negative videos, Anna? And I don't feel like any of my videos are negative. I feel like it's just me expressing my opinion. And yes, a majority of it is my frustration, but it's still my opinions. And I'm only talking about it because I care. So I'm just so grateful that he exists. So I hope you enjoyed this. And I'm 100%, well, not everyone watches my content to enjoy it, but everyone that does, I know you're going to enjoy these clips. So until next time, everyone, have a great rest of your day. I will see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you.
I'm a Chiefs fan, yes.
And how did that happen?
Okay, so I spend a lot of time over here, obviously, and I've been watching some American football. I started to like the sport, and I realized I had to choose a team. And the only way I could choose a team was with something that was never going to change. So it wasn't going to be my buddy likes this team or whatever it may be. So I figured the one thing which won't ever change in my life is the Superman aspect of it. And I figured Superman's from Kansas, the Chiefs, people in Kansas support the Chiefs. It just all added up.
So you just kind of said like, oh, if Superman was a football fan...
Oh, he'd definitely be a Chiefs fan.
He'd be a Chiefs fan.
100%.
And you're probably right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird. It looked like you were doing the fighting in that scene.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you use stuntmen?
I do my best not to. On this, I didn't use a stuntman at all. And for me, it's really important that the character exists within the action as well, rather than just an acting scene and then you have an action scene which is completely separate, then you're back to the acting again. It's really important that the story and the character travel through all of those things.
Is that something Tom Cruise shamed you into, not using stuntmen? And be like, hey, I do everything. You should do everything too?
Yeah.
The Witcher, I was thinking about it, and I was like, why do I remember that? And I remember seeing the books, like, as a kid. There was a book series, right?
Yes. This TV show is based off the book series.
The books, yes. And this was a very popular, what is magic, science fiction?
Hugely popular fantasy genre series of books, bestsellers.
Right.
Much all
Had you read those books?
I had, yeah.
So this was something you had a particular interest in being a part of.
Yeah.
And how do you find out they're doing it? Like when there's something that you're into?
You just hear it. You read it on the internet half the time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's how you found out about
Absolutely.
it?
Read it on the internet.
So these are books that you read as a kid, and now you get to play the character.
I didn't read the books as a kid. I played the games. They released a game called Witcher 3 it's about 5 years ago now. Played that game to the death.
Really?
And then I heard it was coming out. I met the showrunner, and that's when I learned there were books. read the books, and I realised I was missing out on a whole world of the stuff because I've been into the fantasy genre since I was a kid. Since before I could read, my dad was reading me fantasy books.
Because, Henry, you are quite a nerd as well. I mean, you must have been so geeked to be Superman, to kind of think...
Yeah, no, I'm a geek.
Yeah.
We talk a bit on set about stuff,
We
don't
do,
we?
yeah. Quietly in dark corners.